think Rachel Otto. She would have walked past me and I would never recognize her. I would never wear that hat out in public.
Yeah, so catch.
Wow. This is my second. The first was much more being out. They were putting out their
Yeah. They probably are all sure.
I mean, next week for like the 5th time.
Nelson Nygaard.
Yeah, those seem to be the two. They seem to have formed teams.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about just getting into the purchases. I'm happy to do that, but I won't let you.
Yes.
No. I need to catch up
Oh, we don't?
No, you're good.
Cool.
Yeah, it's about 15 people in it.
Sweet.
I did.
Oh, so long as you keep it upbeat, I'm fine with what you say. You can't help yourself.
But I'm all ready to go. No, it's just.
Yeah.
Hi, Clark and Fred. Nice to meet you.
How you doing? Christian Lenhart.
Yes. I wasn't going to be the person.
I can't tell you that has come up again. A thing that challenges that is
I'm sorry.
or the opposite side of it. Cities focus on yes, all the turns less functional. Yes, well, that would solve that.
We tried. They said that they were busy.
Of course they are. They've got like one guy to take cover operations for everything.
3 states. Yep.
3 states? Okay, well, that's a lot. All right.
Ready? Whenever you.
Oh, yeah? I thought Matt was going to get us started. I'm just going to goof around until Matt starts it.
Sounds good.
This isn't a library, so you don't have to be quiet and talk. Just have to spend them
All right, hello everybody. Thanks for coming out. My name is Dan Dugan. I am just a random citizen that got involved with this. I don't know, a few years ago. Originally it was Christian Lenhart here who proposed the Rio Grande Plan. And I'm going to talk about what that is to give you all context before we move on. With us today we have Councilman Dan Dugan, who just arrived. So great to have him. We also have Joe Taylor. Joe Taylor from Salt Lake City Transportation. And the famous YouTuber himself, Christian Lenhart, who proposed it. And I am not a planner or designer by training. I'm actually an astronautical engineer. And I think that's kind of emblematic of the way that this idea has come about. It's just people saying, you see the things about the city and you go, maybe this will help. Maybe, we want to turn it into a better, more connected city. And so that's kind of the spirit of it. We just want to hear from you. We want to meet you. We want to, talk about this and iterate on it and hopefully, make something happen. But first, I just want to give you a little background. This picture here is kind of an overhead view of really the area that we're in right now. You see two sides of the city. Right in the middle, there's a freeway and railroad tracks. And then that little red dot right there is the Rio Grande Depot. Rio Grande Depot is my way to phrase it. And so the Rio Grande Plan, Rio Grande Plan, was proposed in 2020 or so by Christian Lenhart. I came on a few months later, and we just, we've done so many things since then to try to get people's imaginations going about what this could be, how it looks now. And so the main idea of the Rio Grande Plan is to take the train tracks, and there's a big railroad depot, historic railroad depot that separates the city, and take all of the railroad tracks, including Farm Hunter and Amtrak comes up here to Pacific lines, and put them along the publicly owned right of way, which is 500 West, where the tracks actually used to be. But instead of putting them on the surface, we want to put them underground in a trench, and we call it a train box, that you would cover over and build the street back on top. And it's worth noting that Union Pacific has two other yards, north and south, and this one really isn't used all that much anymore. So what does this do? We reactivate the Rio Grande Depot as the historic Rio Grande Depot as our central train station. A building that right now is considered a barrier to development because it's in the middle of Third South, would actually be a boon to the area again if it was reactivated as a train station, which is what it was built to be. It would also open about 50 acres of land between the freeway and the depot to hopefully to redevelopment and by also removing all the viaducts which were actually built for the Olympics last year, which kind of, they go over all the railroad tracks, but they kind of prevent anything in the vicinity from ever coming together, from walkability or bikeability or any kind of development standpoint. So why are we here today? This is the Rio Grande Plan from 2020 or so. But we're here because Salt Lake City, through the efforts of Christian and Cameron and other people in this room, actually decided to take this seriously, not just some idea on the internet, because it actually fits it solves a lot of problems, including what we had appreciated before, the east-west divide, which is, I think, very important to a lot of council members. And so they actually, Salt Lake City actually funded a study, and that's what we're here to talk about today. And the study is called the Cost and Impacts Analysis. I think it's part of a bigger effort to study the east-west divide. And so with that, I'm going to turn it over to Dan Dugan. And I ask that you hold your questions at the end. Thank you.
Awesome, great. Thank you so much for joining us. You know, a year ago, we did something very similar to this over at Woodbine, and we had a lot of technical difficulties there, if you were there. But we had a lot of enthusiasm, and I appreciate everyone's here. That shows your enthusiasm, that shows your interest in this great plan. And that's what one of the big things we're trying to do here. Build on the enthusiasm, press the envelope, as we would say in the military and the Navy, press the envelope on doing big things, and we want to connect communities. One city by the Rio Grande. And a couple of years ago when I read about it, and I was briefed with Cameron and Christian over Zoom, because this was the year of the Zoom in 2020, I immediately fell in love with it. I mean, and how can you not fall in love with it? First, bears their own tracks, right? It eliminates dangerous railroad crossings. It opens up land, unbelievable land for parks, housing, development. It rejuvenates an old train station for what it should be used for, and it connects communities. It checks all the boxes for me, for one city, connecting the communities by this plan. And it was born out of two guys, just their vision to make the city a better place to live and work. No one paid them, no boss told them, hey, you go do this. They did it out of their own hearts, their own minds, their own desire to make this place a better place to live. And I'm forever grateful for that plan coming here, and for the enthusiasm we're seeing across the board. We'll find the money because it's going to pay for itself in big ways. Not only generate revenue, but it's also going to generate a lot of benefits for the community, on our health, and basically our livability and our walkable streets to make this. So that said, I'm not here to sell it to you. It's going to sell to you. It's going to sell to you. But I'm going to turn the time over to Joe Taylor. We did an in-depth analysis for the transportation department, and I'm so grateful for them for doing that on their city's own dime to do this. And I appreciate them very much. And Joe's a smart guy, and all the rest of these guys are just here.
I'm Joe Taylor. I am a planner in transportation division in Salt Lake City. Thanks to Via Rio Grande for having us out. As a city staffer, this is a lot nicer room than I'm usually in, so that's really nice. But thanks to industry for having us. So, as a transportation planner and somebody who works in transportation in the city, it's clear to our vision that the east-west divide is the single largest problem that we face with regard to transportation. But the east-west divide is a lot more than just a mobility issue. We all know when that train arm comes down and basically pray that it's a front runner train, so you're not waiting there for however long you're there. But it's more than that, right? It has, sort of engendered patterns of investment throughout the city, or disinvestment, as it may be. It's created a real divide that's more than just a transportation problem. It's a psychological problem, and it has also created, I think, a lot of what we might regard as at least underused, if not wasted space, right through the center of our town. So, the official position of our division is not that we're for the Via Rio Grande Plan or that we're against it. Obviously, we see that it has a whole heck of a lot of merit, enough that we wanted to invest in, kind of furthering the conversation about what it might take. The plan, I think, in our eyes, at least solves a lot of the challenges that we see that are presented by the freeway and obviously the header rail. So this is just a list of the folks that we spoke to that gave us, kind of wants, needs, things they were concerned about, that sort of thing, shaped the plan, what went into it. So as you can see, there's a lot of city folks, and then obviously the heavy rail operators as well as ETA. And then Patriot Rail doesn't actually operate on that east-west, but they link up to it, and they really helpful. So yeah, that's who we talked to. Everybody was great. Everybody came and gave us a lot of really good information. Next one. So yeah, we, if you look at our plan, and I didn't bring any copies, but I'll put up the link on our website, or to our website that's got the full plan as well as the fact sheet that I'll put up, and you can download that, have a look at all 326 pages. If you're really crazy, it's just a 2-page fact sheet if you want just nuts and bolts. But if you just go to the city transportation website and look at plans and studies, it's right there, so it's really easy to find. So, you know, if you compare what we came up with to Via Rio Grande's plan, you'll see that our extents go out a little longer. That's to accommodate for transitional space, right? The train has to go down before it can go fully underground. And then, you know, just what does the Union Pacific say they need? What does ETA say they need in a tunnel if it were to be built? We looked at all of the challenges we might face, or at least all the ones that people told us that they could think of. And I'll go over some of those, but it's all going to be pretty obvious stuff. You know, you dig a big hole in the middle of the city, there's utilities in there, there's groundwater that flows through there, that sort of thing. And then we came up with a cost estimate. And I think that, you know, I would welcome anybody who wants to challenge that cost estimate to download the plan, have a look at it. You know, for a project this large, I mean, 126 pages seems like a pretty exhaustive study. This is really preliminary for something this major. So if you're interested, have a look at that. Next slide. These are just a few of the issues. A couple that spoke to me really, you know, kind of largely groundwater in Salt Lake City is all gravity fed, and this would interrupt that. Now, this is not an unsolvable challenge. There are places in the world where they have a dewatering system to drain their groundwater. That's something that we'd have to consider. There's a lot of utilities under consideration. You know, once the train box is in, those utilities would probably be really well served, right? Because you can account for it when you build the thing. But it would be a lot of disruption as it's happening. I'm told there's a 5-foot brick tunnel that drains all of the sewage from downtown. That, you know, you probably don't, I don't think it crosses the train, it shaken apart, so stuff like that. And then just, you know, there are not a lot of construction projects on this scale, at least in this city. So we're just sort of trying to slowly learn as we go along. Next slide. I'm assuming because you're here and you're excited about this, I don't need to go over the benefits of it, but they're numerous and they're you know, really substantial, right? You are eliminating that divide and you're also gaining a lot of real estate that you could look at. Next slide. So this is a brief look at our cross section. Again, this is up on the website. Grab it, look at it, tear it apart. This cross section here is right where the station would be, right after Rio Grande. So that's the largest cross section that we have. And we kind of looked at, we basically gave everybody everything they want. With the idea that if you're going to dig a hole this big, you don't want to wish that you had done something differently. Now, could you look at that and say, well, you could save costs by doing X, Y, Z? Absolutely. We sort of presented, I was going to use a car metaphor. I'm not going to say Cadillac. We gave you the most robust rail system that we could, so that there's space for everybody, including Amtrak having their own rail. So that's cross section. This is a lot of the numbers. Estimated 3 to 5 billion. I think it's a big takeaway. You get about 76 acres back. You know, 6 to 8 billion in maybe construction time dollars. Again, I would invite anybody who's interested to look at the plan and try and poke holes in that. My sense is that for every cost savings that you might see, I don't know if you all have done construction projects in your home, but just sort of the notion of once you're in there, you start discovering stuff. I think there may be some of that. But anyway, that's our estimate with this first blush look. Next one. Oh, perfect. Thanks for the QR code, Matt. That's how you can get to it. You should be able to find that on your favorite search engine in a couple minutes if you don't want to write that down or look at the QR code, but give you a minute to grab that if you want it. Everybody good? Okay, marching on. So this is just sort of a look at a lot of the other stuff that's going on in the area. It gives me an opportunity to sort of announce what we're doing next as a city. You can see that the Rio Grande Plan is there in purple. That's the cross-section that we put together with the city and our friends at Finley Warren. And then Station Center is a RDA and UTA project. They're looking at redoing their station area right around Central Station downtown. Obviously, guessing that looking at expanding I-15 is not news to anybody in this room. UDOT's looking at expanding I-15, which doesn't necessarily affect the rail, but it does kind of affect thoughts on the east-west divide. And then this kind of larger mustard colored area is the study area for the federal grant that the city just received, which is the Reconnecting Communities grant, and I'll talk a little more about that. But that's kind of our next step in Salt Lake City. This list is not exhaustive. Just put a ped bridge in 3rd North, looking at expanding bike access over the 4th South Viaduct. There's tons of stuff going on. I think a lot of smart folks realize that there is a problem and are attacking it in a lot of different ways. Next slide. So this is the link to our critical connections page. Go ahead and grab that. Although if you're on the Rio Grande page, it would be very easy to get to that as well. So just to talk through this, Salt Lake City has received a federal grant in partnership with UTA to, over the next couple of years, once we kick it off, have a larger conversation about the east-west divide, trying to bring in as many of the affected communities, and to have a conversation that I think sort of is predicated on the idea that it's transportation problems that cause this divide, and so it's sort of incumbent on transportation professionals to help address it. It's going to be a broad community conversation. Right now, we don't have a proposed solution. I would welcome all of you who are excited about Via Rio Grande to be a part of that conversation. And maybe that train box is what we come up with. It also may not be. We're going to allow that process to sort of run its course. And then that, would result in sort of a proposed project, not construction. But you can have a look at that, and we'll make more announcements from Salt Lake City Transportation about that project. I think. Was there one more for me? All right. Thanks for having me, guys.
Thanks again to Joe Taylor and Dan Dugan. Thanks for your presentations. Thank you for the involvement from the city. Cameron, come up here for a minute. I'm Christian Lenhart, and this is Cameron Blakely. We're the names that's on that booklet. The booklet is now officially obsolete. That's a keepsake you can have. The real plan is the one behind me now. The one proposed through the screen analysis done by Finley Warren. This was paid for, again, by Salt Lake City, using funds from the city to better explore what the actual train box dimensions would be. They did that because, again, in February of this year, Salt Lake City was awarded $2 million from the Federal Transportation, Department of Transportation to study how transportation improvements could solve the east-west divide. And so, in order to study what that is, or how this train box fits into that, they had to come up with their own study first. So it's a two-part thing. Part one is done, that's what we're looking at now. Part two is, will it actually solve the east-west divide? And I'll talk to you for a few minutes to show that, yes, I think this really is the best way to do it, and the most economical way to do it too. What you see back here on the screen, blue is what Cameron and I had originally talked about for the last 4 years. And the orange is, of course, the larger version. It's larger for a few important reasons, but also just because you'll notice on the north end, which is north is to your right, my left, There's a few other things happening there. That's 3rd North and 4th North, those railroad crossings that Kevin and I had ignored. They are in this new proposal, they're being eliminated as crossings. I believe it was a Ralph Becker, the former mayor, who contacted us and gave us a call, right? What did he say?
Yeah, he was very interested in extending the Tremont Bridge north. Rightly so, he was concerned with it, specifically the area right behind the gateway, which as the trains were kind of ramping up, it would severely affect kind of the livability of downtown, the aesthetics of it. And at the time, based on our own bandwidth, we were just like, yeah, that's kind of, we'll address that in the future. But yeah, Ralph was forward enough to kind of call out to our attention. And yeah, I'm super ecstatic he's now rolling back.
It's a better project. It's a bigger project. It's a more expensive project, but it's a better project because it actually does solve the east-west divide along the whole railroad corridor. Going north to south, front road won't have a single railroad crossing through downtown. Going to the east and west, they're going to close 2 more crossings. There's one that we had showed that's blue, that's the 800 West crossing. That one would have been closed in our proposal, by actually close the streets, no one can get through. In this one, everyone can get through, the tracks are still underground there. 900 West is still closed, completely, or at least it would be closed in this new proposal. Some new ways to open up. 100 North, North Temple Station is in the way right now. You can't get through on 100 North. In this new version of the plan, North Temple Station would also be underground. There's 2 underground transit stations, and you'll be able to go across. 100 North will be connected again. There's that other circle there that doesn't have to have to do in blue. That's 50 North. That would also be a new east-west connection. That's closed now. That doesn't exist, but it would be open to the trains. That hasn't been open for literally 100 years, ever since the tracks came through in the 1860s. There's a few other places as well. 700 West is a street. It's not a street now. I mean, it's a fragmented street, but it would be a major street coming forward. Again, these are things that can be buried under the street and under yards for 100 years, and we'd be able to put a community back there. So yeah, our original proposal was for 4 crossings. Salt Lake City's proposing 8. Our original proposal was for 50 acres of land to be redeveloped. Salt Lake City thinks they can get 75. 75 acres, that's 7 city blocks, not just the 5 acre blocks.
Big blocks.
Sorry?
Big blocks.
8 blocks? Okay, right, big blocks.
Big blocks.
Big blocks.
Right. We Salt Lake City, we're proud of our big blocks, right? We love our blocks.
Biggest in the world.
No, they're cool. What can we build on those? I mean, we have a housing crisis in Salt Lake City. We need more housing. We can put that there. We need more green space. We have space for it. There was news this week that the sports team, Utah Jazz, are looking to for a new stadium. They want one that's able to convert between basketball and hockey, so a new stadium is needed. And I mean, what better place could you put it than there? There's plenty of space for new sports in there. Salt Lake City and the Wasatch Front, it's a unique area that is all on a single line, right? It's really good for transit because 80% of the population of our whole state lives on this one line along the front of it. And so it makes it really easy for a transit line to serve the whole populace, making it a statewide issue, not just a city issue. But at the same time, it brings with us a challenge. When Walt Disney wanted to create his theme parks, both in California and in Florida, he never set foot on the ground where the place would be. He looked at the map, he said, these are where the freeways cross, that's the land we need to buy. And he knew that because that's the easiest way to get people to his new parks. Here we don't have that crosshatch sort of thing, we just have a line. And so you see that the tendency is for all the development to go up and down this line and not concentrate itself in downtown. If we want a downtown, we need to fight hard for it. We need to be proactive. It's not going to happen on its own. The tendency is for it to spread itself along that corridor. I only have a few more bullet points. Any other questions? Yeah, it's an entire statewide project. Frontrunner is supposed to be an alternative to I-15. As a civil engineer, I've been involved in discussions with UDOT over for various expansion projects in the future. And their stated vision for the future is that when I-15 gets too crowded, too congested with cars, there's two things they can do. They can make front runner better, or they can double deck the freeway. As in, you have I-15 now, build another one on top on stilts. And just carry that through for miles and miles. I am not joking. People with straight faces in my industry, we're highway builders. I build highways too. I'm sorry, that's one of the things that got me involved in the Rio Grande Plan. Because in 2021, I was involved in the design build for the West Davis corridor. That's the new freeway that's going up in January. It goes from Farmington out west. And it was the most impressive thing to look at all that farmland, the area limits behind the plans, and see all the wetlands, and then see people's houses, and then go out on the sites where there used to be houses and neighborhoods for the freeway. They knocked it all down, it was a pile of road. And that's just so you can build more freeways. And that's one of the things that inspired me to say, I need to do something about this. When doctors see that there's a sickness, a disease going around, they step up. They say, I think we can propose something different here, a different cure. So I was compelled, I had to do it. This is a much better way. But frontrunner, commuter train, it cannot be a realistic alternative to I-15 until all the railroad crossings are eliminated. As a train host for UTA, I worked as a train host in college, so I would ride the train every day after college. And the disruptions, when we get disrupted, like one train hits someone at a railroad crossing anywhere, the system has to close down for 2 or sometimes 3 hours. And you step on the trains or police figure out what happened. It's obvious what happened. They have to figure it out. Whatever. So, and that would happen at least once a month, if not more frequent than that. That was back in 2012. When the system probably first opened. If we want to keep frontrunner being a reliable alternative to I-15, something that people can build their commutes around, build their lives around. If we want transit-oriented development to get built next to the stations, we have to make sure it's a reliable way to get around. You don't have to check the news before you get on the train to make sure that it's still running. That's the dream anyway. And then it's not just, so that's the statewide issue. Frontrunner is more than just the Salt Lake City issue, it's more than just the capital city issue. If we show that we can do this here in Salt Lake City, there's other crossings on Frontrunner. There's 50 more once this one's done. What about Lehigh? How do they close their crossings? How do they reconnect their community? Well, if we've done the work in Salt Lake City here, they can learn from the example here. Provo has its own problems. Ogden needs some redevelopment. If they want to do these community stations, Ogden again, that's great for Frontrunner. For the Amtrak and future trains to Boise, they would need a lot of traffic to do that. These kinds of large rail projects affect everyone. It's not a Salt Lake City issue, it's a Wasatch Front issue. But I guess that's enough about trains. There's two kinds of urbanists, right, in my experience. There's the urbanists who think trains are a good tool to help build stronger cities. And then there's other urbanists who think that cities are a great backdrop and which to run trains. And I confess that I was originally one of the latter ones. I approached this from a transit point of view. But this is a bigger issue than trains. This is about the community. This is about people who feel like they're excluded from our city because they're on the wrong side of the tracks. And whole neighborhoods have been on the wrong side of the tracks for coming up now 160 years. If there's freight trains in the way, you're not free to go about your city. You're not free to go downtown. You're not free to assemble in where they want. I live on the east side, you guys would call it, near the big park, and we have family and friends that live out by the Jordan River. There's this wonderful new bike path, the 9-lane trail, and my kids are just going to ride their bikes. It would be great to ride with them on this trail, or even just send them to go see their friends on this trail. But parents that aren't me, the other parents involved, don't like that idea at all. And trains, numbers come through so quickly. It's like having the freeway at grade level. Do we put, pedestrian crossings on the freeway, have lights turn off the freeway, you don't walk across on the pavement? We don't do that. Trains go just as fast. Why do they have crosswalks? How safe is that? it made sense when the trains didn't come so often, but we're growing in a big city. It's time for that step change. Is it worth the price though? Is it worth the $3 to $5 billion? Now, as an engineer, it's my job to go through and try to make the most economical projects possible. It's what I do as a day-to-day thing. And try to make the cost cheaper so that people can afford it. So if you can't have a cheap project, you can't build it. But I stand by this proposal. I stand by the costs. I endorse this plan. I completely support what Salt Lake City is doing. This isn't a handoff. I'm still going to be here. I'm going to still be promoting this. But I'm going to follow the lead that Salt Lake City has put on this. Other big projects have been built. I-15 project north to Farmington is going to be the reconstruction we're talking about. That's $4 billion and counting. That's twice what we expected in the provision. The airport reconstruction, that cost $5 billion. For the last Olympics, they rebuilt the freeways. That cost, adjusted for inflation, $3 billion. And that was done within 3 years of the Olympics happening. Just to get ready for that event. These big projects can't happen quickly. I-15 has been being built and rebuilt again for 60 years now. Each project costs another $1 billion. And that's not counting all the other new freeways. Mountain View Corridor, Baker, it's getting upgraded to freeway standards. Each new bridge, there you go, another couple $100 million. Legacy Parkway, West Davis Corridor, all these things are mega projects that can be done quickly, that have funding streams from the state, not just from other grants from the federal government, from the state. And they cost cumulatively billions of dollars. The state budget every year is now $30 billion a year. We have the means to do this. This is not too big of a project for Utah. We are able to build this, and it will be worth it too. The real story shouldn't be cost. The real story is this event here. We had this event because when we were looking at the cost, we knew what happened. The news organizations, they love to leave the cost. They have that in the headline. They may even come with some insulting images of money raining down on the transit, as if the transit will cost you much more than anything else, as if it's just a money pit that doesn't give anything in return. That's not what I want to be in the headlines. You guys are the headlines. How many here are just hearing about the Rio Grande Plan for the first time? 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, how many people are here because they support the Rio Grande Plan? Raise your hand. Let me hear you guys. 103 people here. How many people online?
We had a max of 27. We're at 20.
27. We're doing good. 150 people. Well, I have a challenge for the people who I heard are here from the Department of Transportation. Can you fill a room like this with supporters for a freeway expansion? Try it. Let me invite me. I'll see how many people come. This is a project people care about. This is a project that is driven by the citizens. You know, mayors come, mayors go, presidents come and go, policies come and go, city council members
Come and go.
They come and go. But we're the people who live here. We stay. This is our city. This is our home. We're the ones who drive this project forward. 150 people, that's 150 letters to send to Governor Cox, to our representatives in the legislature, to the news stations, to people who can make a difference. It's not going to happen without the whole community being involved. When we're finished with this plan, when we're done with this, we won't be a divided community anymore. We'll be a community united around sustainability, around transit, around history, and around achievement of having done something. When we're done, we can be one city again, one city, Via Rio Grande. That's why I am still looking forward to this. Thank you so much. make sure that's tested. But then, I guess for questions, let's do this organized. Like, let's have a line coming around here next to the webcam. You don't have to put your face on the webcam, but if you want to ask a question or make a comment or anything, you stood up first. State your name as well, and I guess if you live or how you're affected by the plan first, and then we'll go to the questions.
My name is Jeff Carlton, I'm over the Avenues. The one thing I haven't seen yet is the state's involvement in this or commitment from them. I saw one of your funding slides had a completion by 33, which puts the year before the Olympics, right? So how can we help put more pressure on the state to get involved? And I guess I'd say the same thing for the railroad. They've looked at it and they've helped, but I haven't seen an outright commitment that say we're on board with this.
You're gonna get sick of hearing me, that's all I'm saying. But you're right, we haven't heard a lot of involvement from state leaders or other ETA leaders, Department of Transportation leaders. They've stayed silent. The thing about this project is that it touches on so many different organizations and groups. It's the railroads, Union Pacific, other railroads have track networks there. It's UTA, they run their trains through here. Department of Transportation is in charge of railroad crossings. It would be their prerogative to build grade crossings or grade separations here. There's other plan organizations. And this plan kind of falls right in the middle. It's like if you're playing volleyball and everyone says, I got it, and it falls right in the middle. Because no one thinks it's really their sole responsibility. That's why Cameron and I went to Salt Lake City first, because we realized it wasn't an issue that should be addressed as a transportation issue primarily. It's a city issue first. And so I can't be more happy that the city took us seriously.
Yeah, and also, it's been awesome that we got that $2 million grant to do east-west connection. And the city submitted their grant request, not with this in mind, but with the idea of connecting the east to the west, right? Because there's that big divide. That one picture very early on was so beautiful. I mean, you saw I-15, and to the west was neighborhoods and trees, and to the east was just barren railroad tracks and really just nothing, right? So it was like a desert that was on the east side of the road other than the freeway. So that when the city did that, hey, we're gonna do an east-west connection. So what can we do at this level? We have the grant, we're putting out the RFP, and we need to make sure that we keep the pressure on this RFP and this study goes through in a very thorough but expeditious manner. And I say that because they can slow turn things so that it just takes forever and then just somehow just dies away, right? So for us, it's from the business community, from the neighborhoods, from this group, right, your enthusiasm, your work on making sure that grant and that study goes through expeditiously and thoroughly, so we don't end up with what's going on in the community. I won't say another expensive revenue negative. Sorry.
All right. You have feelings, we understand. One last word of caution, because the city study is going to take about a year or more to fill out or to complete.
At least two.
At least two? Okay, Joe says two. You guys are going to have to express extreme patience. For 2 years, I don't expect any other groups to really state anything about this. Until the benefits are really known, the actual costs are really known, I expect a lot of the official groups to stay quiet on this and let the process work. But stuff is happening in the background. You gotta trust that it is.
Hi, thank you. My name, excuse me, my name is Terry Marasco. I live on the west side. I'm the chair of the Jordan Meadows Community Council. I'm curious, how many folks live on the west side? Good. So, well, I have some bad ones. Can you go back to the plan? So the narrative about this will solve the east-west divide ignores I-15 completely. Historically, it's been the Great Divide. We had many, many meetings with UDOT. One of our suggestions before they developed the final EIS was to sink I-15 through the city. Totally rejected it. I'm curious if you had any discussions with them about that, doing in a coordinated fashion. Have you?
Sinking I-15 would be amazing for the city. I'm hesitant to link it with this project because there's already, quite a lot happening here. I have not had in-depth discussions with people at UDOT about burying the freeway. The most that we'll see realistically in the timeframe of this project happening is what they proposed with the widening of I-15 going northbound, where they open up new tunnels for pedestrians in places where it's currently blocked. But it would be amazing. I think we should push for that, and I will do that. But yeah, I wouldn't expect to see them move on that before they move on this.
Just to note, the Reconnected Communities work that we'll be doing is not just limited to the rail, but the freeway is expected to be a part of that conversation. Oh, excuse me, the freeway is expected to be a part of that conversation as well.
In what way?
In whatever way folks like you want to bring up, that it's a big part of the divide and that looking at ways of addressing it are, part of the conversation.
Okay.
Can I just say one thing? I don't think we should be saying that this solves the east-west divide, but I do think that the rail yard and the railroad tracks are as big of a barrier as the freeway, if not more, because like Christian was saying, the railroad tracks are not grade separated, the freeway is. And if you're crossing the freeway, at least you know that things aren't going to hit you at 80 miles an hour, or you go under it because they spent the money to make the freeway high. So I agree it's a big issue, and we've kind of decoupled it from this just because this was the motivating project, but none of us are opposed to that either. Another question?
Hey, hey, my name's Trevor. I don't live in the city. I live in the valley, and I'm a avid train user. I just wanted to ask a couple questions. One person is not here, who is a downtown resident. His question, I want to exercise a couple of problems that he's going to have here. He's very connected to the issue and knows a lot of the stakeholders. His concern is number one issue is water. Drainage seems to be a big cost concern. He knows the stakeholders for the gateway. It's a big concern of theirs, a lot of issues with that. I know that has been part of the reason why some of the costs have really been a lot bigger, because just the further west you go, the more groundwater you go. How are we addressing that? Number one. Number two, this has gotten a lot of fervor from people in the city council level, but how do we energize the legislature, which is going to be the number one area that we're going to need to get buy-in from, and also on the federal level? There's a big pot of money that about everybody in the country has been trying to, get a piece of. Obviously, this is not shovel-ready. All the shovel-ready projects, they already got doled out. How are we trying to get the national department on this? How do we get people as excited as they are for the point, as like they're salivating, they're getting so excited for the point? How do we get them as excited for this as they are for the point? I mean, I feel like people are about to, get exalted here with how like they're building it up of like this is. So anyway, the point. How do we get people as excited about that?
Yes, worry about the groundwater is astute. It's a big challenge. It really is. There are dewatering systems. Actually, I believe the City Creek parking garage, the mall parking garage, is dewatered. Anytime you build something that can't fail, that is, something to think about. I'm not a civil engineer. My understanding is that this is possible, but expensive. It would be a huge part of the undertaking, and it's a huge part of what inflated the cost. I think as a Salt Lake City employee, you should do whatever the opposite of my advice is to get the legislature on board. I'll let somebody else address that. And then the last part of the question was shovel ready. You know, so this is a partial answer to that question, and I think that there are a lot of ways of going about that. But the Reconnecting Communities program, which is the grant we got, there's planning grants and then there's building grants. And sort of the notion we get from the feds is that if you got a planning grant, that sets you up to get the construction grant. So our hope is that we can take a product out of that, whatever it ends up being, that we could then, you know, declare as shovel ready. I don't know if that gave you all your answers, but there's the rest of it up
Yeah, good question about the excitement. How do we get the enthusiasm for what's going on, right? It's interesting. They were all ready to go with the gondola before anything happened, right? Where were they wanting to follow the money, right? They were all ready to the point, follow the money, right? So in this case, pardon? Right. So how do we get? We need to keep that enthusiasm going. Keep mentioning it. It's funny when I talk to other city planners and city administrators, and I go out to the legislators, and I kind of, when they talk about transportation, when I talk to you, I always kind of throw out this idea of, wow, that would be great for the Rio Grande Plan. And then when I was out here talking to some people, I was staying on 500 West, I'm like, man, this is where my tree box is going to go. Wouldn't that be cool? I mean, how do we connect it? So you got to keep that motivation going. But also what we have to do is this study that we're going to do for the next 2 years, that's going to also be able to sell. If that comes out positive and we make those connections, that can sell. We're also building a great relationship with the legislators. I mean, Terry brings a great question about this is going to solve the problem of these West connections, but it's going to take down a lot of areas right away. And that would be great. So you got to keep that pressure, keep that pressing the envelope with the legislators. I try to do it all the time as a leader, and just kind of like always kind of pull my finger and say, hey, that Rio Grande Plan, hey, we need a variance, we need a connections in the cities. So it's not, and then they got to see the revenue benefit. They look at 76 acres of prime real estate for development. They start thinking differently.
So I'll go follow up on that real quick. I'm sorry, there's so many people.
Use the microphone too.
Oh, yeah. I'm so sorry, but you talked about revenue. The revenue you had up there, was I mistaken, you said something like 20 to 100 million? 1,600 million. So was that like on a yearly basis or within 10 years? What was the window on that?
I'm gonna
Okay.
put my foot in my mouth, but I believe that is the full tax increment finance. So that's
100 million by 2040, is that?
Yeah.
Okay. So, and I just wanted to, somebody's got to know better than me, but the new Astor building that just got built, what is the property tax on that on a yearly basis? My back of the envelope math was at least 27 million. Does that sound right? 0.125, something like that on a $178 million project, and that's its build cost, not its valuation. So each year it progressively gets more. So 76 acres, like how much money can that reasonably bring in? Like back of the envelope, it can't be like just 20 million. It has to be 100 plus a year. So payback is amortized 10 years maybe.
So this is just the tax increment. So what you could get upfront to do the project.
Okay.
Right, not looking at property tax. Yeah, I think that's a much more in-depth.
I want to clarify that because that was the number one question I had when I was here.
And again, I always look at this as, I go back to my campaign, I look at five things 3 ways. It's called the 3 Ps. I want to take care of our people, take care of our plans, and we do that, profits and money fall in place. If we take care of our people by connecting them, we take care of our planet by connecting them so that we can improve our air quality, improve other things that our health is benefited, we will benefit on the profit side of the house. It will come out in the end there. And this will do that because it will help our health, it will help our people connect them. The livelihood of their health, their mental health, their physical health. It'll help our planet by taking cars out of the road, right? No more cars idling. And by doing those 2 things, our productivity will improve, which then translates into dollars in revenue.
So yes, you look at that number and you go, oh my God, it's gonna take us 10 years to return on investment. We want to return on investment 2 years. Well, on these projects like that, this return on investment will be forever. Because we'll have a connection east to west. So don't always go straight to the profit side. If you always go straight to the profit side, you'll never take care of your people and you'll never take care of your planet. So.
Sorry, one last thing.
Just real quick, I want to parlay off of that. So when it comes to working with your legislators,
Who are you,
we actually
Clark?
have one here. What?
Who are you?
Oh, my name is Clark, and I used to work for the state, and I used to work for the city, and I care about this neighborhood quite a bit. Don't just go sling shit at legislators. They're human beings too, even if they're kind of wrong a lot of the time. We actually have one here. It's not going to get us anywhere. Like, you need to coalition build. You need to get involved in your local community. You need to share thoughtfully the data that backs up why you care about it. Because this lines up, and just as Dan said, it's about people, it's about connection. But if you're just saying, I can't believe that you don't agree with me, and I don't like, you know, just go down the list, it's just not going to get anywhere. And there's a real issue these days with how we disagree with people, and I think that's going to be a really major component to bring people along, specifically the folks that are in power. Because let's just admit it, the city has some power, but the legislature has it all, and they're going to do whatever they want. And if we can help them see how this benefits all of Utah, because a strong capital city is a strong state, that's where we're going to make a big difference. So I just needed to say that, and also, I want to know who you're representing. Who's this person that's like asking all these really interesting questions about tax revenue and Ashton Tower? Can you give us a hint?
You probably know.
Sick. All right, cool. All right, I'm done.
One more thing for the question. I know, but this is the dumb answer. I often find that a slogan can help everything. So if you excuse me. Let's make the Rio Grande again.
I've used public transit for just solely alone for like over a year. And for the most part, I've loved it. I've had really good experiences on it. And I love this proposal. I think it sounds really, really good. The major question I have and the major thing that comes up in public transit is that I don't think I've seen a scheduled proposal for this. And the major problem that I've had is I commute from Salt Lake City down to Pleasant Grove all the time, because that's where my parents live. But I can't get down there on Sundays. So if I'm staying overnight, I have to figure out a car situation to get all the way back up on Sunday, something like that. I don't know if this can be posed towards you, but I would love to see that. I would love to see something like that.
I'm trying to do the best on that one. I totally agree. As far as the city is concerned, you know, I can push as hard as I want to on increasing the frequencies of UTA, front runner, and all the other trains and buses and the tracks. But it comes funding from the state, it comes through UTA. And that goes back to the whole idea of profits before the people, you know. Oh, we got to show usage. Well, it's kind of hard to show usage when the train rate comes every 30 minutes going from beyond the train or going to beyond the bus. But if you increase the frequencies to 10 minutes, you're going to probably see more than the threefold increase in ridership, because now you just have to walk out of the house on the bus. I mean, you go to any major metropolitan city, no one ever looks at a train schedule in New York City or Boston or France or Paris or anywhere. You know, just step out the corner and get the bus, get the train, boom, you're done. Right? So we got to increase that frequency. And the governor's put out a lot of requests for money to increase the frequency. We're doing a lot of stuff with WFRC and UTA and how we increase the frequencies. It's a capital expense that we need to put away now so that we can buy the buses and we can increase the frequencies. But yes, you're absolutely correct. We got to increase the frequencies so that we can increase ridership. Yeah, and that's one of my big pushes with the legislators is get that funding from the capital side. So nice, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for everybody. My name is Alex. I'm with the UTA plan. Just wanted to, based on that comment, respond that we're getting ready to take our long-range transit plan to our board of trustees, and one of the things that's included in there to the inquiry that was asked here is there's a big focus on improving frequency and also making significant improvements to Sunday service across the board. So we recognize that, we realize that. As was pointed out, it takes the funding and takes the operational funding, which is very different than the capital funding, but we do, that is something that we recognize in our work. So.
Thank you. Thanks for being here.
One more, or we have a whole line, all right.
That's what you guys are standing up here for. All right.
Yeah, we're all waiting. I thought you just standing up.
Yeah, make sure you say your name so we can get to know you.
Sorry.
So a lot I'd love to say on this, but I think I just want to start by saying I was not always an urbanist, and I'll tell you that car accidents can change your life, and it's been about it's been about 7 years crazy experience that has made me come to realize, as someone who once used to drive all the time and drove for their career even, exactly how much we are not designed for not using your car. I'm a little bit too unstable to drive. And that's become hard to accept, considering that I am one of 2 people in a family business that involves delivering things, and most of my clients are downtown. So just to get around, I use whatever. I'm lucky enough to live next to tracks. I come down here when I can, but I need to address this issue that I and other people who are way less mobile than me have with public transit. It's a thing that we have to use, but we don't. And the reason why we don't is because I can take a tracks to get downtown or to get somewhere, but I can't get anywhere from there. I end up with this huge last mile problem that I know a lot of other people with disabilities do. And some people might say that, oh, you just need to find somebody who can drive you around, but I don't have the kind of money to pay somebody for that. And if I can't do my job, I kind of need him to be doing his. So what do you guys, first off, are you considering people with low mobility with this, and not just like happy, healthy urbanists who love to bike all the time? Because I love you guys, but I can't be you, so it's important to, is that being considered, and how is this plan going to be able to reach out to these people and to let them know that this is going to actually be public transit that works for them? Like, are you considering that last mile?
I'll take part of it, maybe. So, great question, because part of the connectivity is allowing also that you can have public transportation move back and forth east and west at a more frequent rate. Right now, public transportation isn't use the river crossing because they got a guardrail there. So we want to make sure that there's easier connectivity east and west. It also allows buses and emergency vehicles to go east and west, north and south. We can't really address the last mile the same, because that's beyond this portion of it. This portion of the plan is really just to kind of get the railroad crossings gone, so that we can go east and west, but that will also allow public transportation to go east and west too. So it will address it in the long term, because then we work on the frequency side of the house. But first, we got to get the railroad crossings gone.
Cameron?
Sure. Just first, thank you. I think you bring up some really excellent points, and as a designer, I think it's so important that you and the others experiencing similar issues voice those, especially in this east-west divide study that's coming up, that you're really engaged in the public process, because Yeah, like you said, the system, at every level of society, it's just so, like, car centricity is so ingrained. And so I think I find a lot of inspiration and hope in seeing this huge group of people here that are supportive of thinking differently. And so I think expressing your voice in these public processes is going to be really important. And then as far as the plan itself, I can't really add more than what Dan already said, but I do think that there are a lot of really great opportunities in, for example, the reconstruction of Fifth West as the tracks are here, that the streetscape itself could be reimagined to be something a little bit more accessible and allow for greater mobility. Sorry, what?
Green loop.
Yeah, and the green loop is going to be another kind of piece that dovetails into that. So I think that there are a lot of kind of up and coming ideas, but we need to keep kind of pushing that agenda. So thank you for expressing that.
I'll just say our grant work going forward will absolutely involve the ability to community. We have a great board in the city, and UTA is a really good board, but it won't just be limited to that. We intend to reach out and engage with the community as much as we can, because, frankly, infrastructure if it doesn't serve people who have the most problem getting around, then it doesn't serve the community. So.
Next question. We'll do a few more.
Hello, buenas noches. My name is Gustavo Villegas. How you pronounce it there? I want to say quickly thank you so much for saying who here is living from the west side. I think it's important to understand those, in different geographic areas. Several months ago, I think you all hosted a webinar, correct? Regarding, Rio Grande, and I was on it as well. And I asked a question pertaining to the reconciling of the past with this plan. I think this time I also did not see anything of that nature that goes into revisiting the errors that were intentionally made by Salt Lake City government to those who live on this part of town, namely those who were railroad workers, as well as people that the government deemed foreigners, as well as people who did not have homes, therefore known as homeless people. I think it's also important to just a quick history lesson. This area is called a no-line area. It's a little bit different from a red line area. A no-line area would receive zero investment from government. And yet we still have people historically and contemporarily, I would say, still living on that area. So I think it's really important to ensure that we address that we not only reconnect, but we reintegrate, that we not only revisit, but reconcile. And I think it's also important, seeing who is in the room and who's not in the room. And I think we can, from looking around, we understand who's not in the room. And I think it's a question. And again, I'm not super keen on the applause, right? Why? Because I already said this several months ago in the webinar you already hosted. So I'm going to repeat what Mayor Mendenhall said regarding this thing. So she says, it says and this is from Salt Lake Tribune, it says, future development must account for past discrimination. She is quoted saying, historically, there has been racism baked into how cities have developed, and I believe that's being perpetuated today. If we aren't intentionally correcting, so not reconnecting, intentionally correcting for it and providing people access to opportunities across the city, then we're inherently perpetuating it. And I think for me, again, I think this is really great. I do want, a solution, and I think this is a solution, but however, looking in front of me, looking behind me, I think there are people who have been left out, maybe not intentionally, but maybe not by accident as well, from this conversation. And I think it's important again to revisit this. And so I guess again, my comment is this in general, this is great, but there are consequences that happen about surrounding communities. If we develop this area, the property values are going to increase from our surrounding area. What are the plans to make sure that we not continue to gentrify or displace or culturally displace people from this area that have been living here but haven't been invested just because they're not a shiny thing? So that's just something I just want to bring up. So I don't know if there are any thoughts or comments pertaining to this.
Okay.
Hey, thank you very much. I appreciate that. But, and you're right, about everything you just said, and we do need to bid on that. Oh, sorry, I'm saying, thank you very much for this comment, and I'm also saying that he's right, and we do need to bid on that. And I think part of that issue is, our next step needs to do this out there on the west side. Go to Poplar Grove, talk to his community council area. Ali Pui, Councilman Pui, was at the Woodbine. He wasn't here because he's out in the country right now, and he still wanted to be here tonight. Get with him, have him in his neighborhood. It is basically the same thing here with the neighborhood out there. Because we want to connect, we also need to, and you're right, there was no reconnection because there was no connection in the beginning, so we need to make sure this is, I would still use that word connection, but you said it much better there, and integrate them and also bring them into the conversation because they're part of the solution, and that's what we're trying to do here. So I appreciate that, and I would like to get more with you so that we can have this kind of forum with other groups. So thank you very much. Yeah.
I appreciate your comment and your comment last time. And I think part of why maybe you didn't get that from this is that the group pushing for this is just people who have regular jobs. And we're focused on getting the idea out there, and we don't have any funding or any financial stake really. And then the city has taken the initiative by doing this engineering study, but they are folding that into a study that looks at the larger issues. And so I apologize for not having that, but really I hope to see that in the future, and I hope to talk to you more. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with everything you said. I live in Poplar Grove. Everything you said resonated. Can you come? I mean, look at this. This is not a diverse group of people, but these are just people that care. So I would love it if you would help us come up with a strategy and to put the talking points together, but not just as talking points of strategy, but so that we can implement it. One of the things that is the most frustrating things that I've experienced working in government, I've done it to myself, is that we move pretty slow, and sometimes it's hard to really build consensus and build a coalition. And so I love that you're here. I love that you're in the webinar. And I don't know you personally, but I'd love to get to know you and figure out how we can actually make this little group of people that care like a wider situation and something that's going to be able to, I don't know, invigorate more voices. So if you're interested in that, I'm not the one running the show. I just really care. I think this plan is awesome. And sometimes we just have to be okay with incremental growth and just recognize that we're moving things in the right direction after knowing that there was a lot of bad directions in the past. Is that okay?
I can't really speak to the Rio Grande Plan because I wasn't part of creating it, but I'd encourage you to read our grant application for reconnecting communities. I think before we come up with any solution, it's about having conversations in Spanish at very least with students in queer spaces, with people who are concerned about gentrification and not being able to pay their rent. We have to have that conversation, and we have to value those people for their time, generally by paying them, before we can start saying we need to do this or we need to build that. And I think that a lot of that starts with just the notion that these are transportation infrastructure, and they have, if you look at the interstate freeway system, it did a beautiful job of solving its goals. Like, it did what it said it was going to do, but it created all these second order effects with people that they didn't talk to. And I think what we want to do is just have as many of those conversations as we can.
Thank you.
And we just want to have a follow-up. A gentleman had a follow-up. I just want to give a follow-up quickly too.
Okay.
And I think, again, I understand that's not your expertise, but I think partially in this is seeing where there are gaps. And I think in any planning analysis, that gap is pretty apparent. So although, thank you for the apologies, but as one of my favorite people says, Cardi B, she says, don't be sorry, be careful. So instead of, saying sorry, go back into the drawing board and make sure that we correct these wrongs. So that's the only thing I just want to make sure we
draw it with us. Draw it with us.
There's a whole lot of people out there that can do it much better than I can. I'm not an expert in this. There are those people who already exist. Networks exist. Community-based organizations, CEOs, they already exist. So, sorry, I'm not an expert in this, but they are there. Y'all can definitely find them.
We're not experts either, just so you know.
Let's do some rapid fire ones and then we'll close it out. Sorry.
All right, my question is, out of the big price that an unnamed news publication put in their headline because it was comically large, how much of that is property acquisition, according to this study? Well, with the rail yard.
I'll watch it, but if you get in there, it's listed out. It's significant.
Okay, are we talking like, I guess I should look.
Yeah, I would love to ballpark it for you, but I'd probably be wrong.
All right, I bring that.
There's a cost breakdown in the back of it. I think there's no residences that would have to be acquired. Obviously, there would be a lot of residences that would be very substantially impacted during construction, but yeah, it's a lot of like light manufacturing.
I bring that up mainly because the original plan, specifically with the rail yard, didn't really take into account actual property costs, because obviously, if you're not friends with Union Pacific, you can't figure that out. So I'd imagine with some cooperation from Union Pacific, maybe a land swap or something, this price tag could come down substantially, which would be a great way to sell it to the legislature.
And it's worth mentioning that the cost has a 30% contingency already built in.
$1 billion.
So there's $1 billion of no cost that we know of, but it might come up. It's already in that estimate. So.
All right, I'll try to be quick because I know we're trying to finish up that staircase. I was just curious because I'm involved with a lot of other projects that are being talked about in urbanism. And one of the ones that I have been visiting a lot, I just want to make sure that people that have business cards here, is anyone here from, say, Ogden Union Station by chance? Just making sure. Is anyone here from, say, Ogden Union Station?
Oh.
Because whenever I ask questions about Ogden, they always track me down and give me a business card. But so my question about that is, because Amtrak is going to be tied down to only one track, I think is what was in the plan. It sounds like that they may need to look elsewhere to do their service and their fuel stops. And I liked Christian Lenhart's idea on this that he posted on YouTube, where you reroute Amtrak's California Zephyr over the causeway into Ogden. If you guys don't know, there's two tracks that run parallel to each other in Utah. I was just curious, has there been any kind of coordination with like Ogden's community by chance or something like that, where they talk about potentially like doing a coordination effort to reroute Amtrak or make Amtrak servicing more feasible? I was curious about that.
Anyone want to ask? Have you talked with them?
Well, I think the short answer is no, because, we're just, pushing for this from the Salt Lake City community perspective, but I'm sure we all support that idea, and I think maybe the state might, or UDOT or someone is looking at a line to Boise, and so maybe that's part of their calculus. I'd love to see that. I'm from Ogden, so I love Ogden Union Station. Quick comment?
Introduce yourself too.
Oh yeah, sorry, my name is Nathan. I'm a recent addition to their team. And you'll have to correct me on this, Joe, because I recall on this diagram here, it's pointed out that Amtrak has their platform, their specific dedicated track, but they could theoretically use one of the Union Pacific tracks if and then they added the third Union Pacific rail that you can see listed as the top line.
I'm not qualified to discuss rail. Yeah, I mean, Amtrak operates on the Union now, so.
They operate in the Union Pacific until they get to Salt Lake Central Station, where they have their own station tracks. But this is all very preliminary. The idea is that this is a box. It's big enough for 2 platforms, 6 tracks, service road, all the stuff that you need. It can fit in there. We build it once, we can reconfigure it however we like. Thanks.
I might be asking a question that you already answered. It's just kind of hard to hear from that corner of the room I was sitting in.
Oh, sorry.
So it's okay. My question is this. I do see how removing trains from the ground level and putting them in a train box, how that will get rid of some boundaries that are preventing connection between east and west. And so I definitely see how that will improve the connection. However, The highway is still there. I don't know if someone already talked about that. So with like, are there any other, that's still like a huge boundary between the east and the west. And so are there any other ways that this project, maybe like, that I can't think of obviously, where like, are you guys gonna use the existing tunnels to connect people, or is that part of the plan? You know, the tunnels for the train that are going underneath the highway. I don't know, I was wondering if you guys could tell me about any other ways that maybe I might not think of beyond just crossing the railroad tracks, that this would increase east-west connection, because I still feel like the highway is still like a very huge boundary. I don't know.
Yeah, the highway is still a very large landmark. Looking back at the aerial image we had before with just the.
Into the mic. Speaking of the mic.
Sorry. Yeah, the highway is still a really big obstacle in the way, or at least in the big boundary line. Like I said before, this is its own separate thing. It's not really tied to the expansion of the freeway. We can encourage you, as at the same time as you make comments for the Rio Grande study or the connections study, what's it called? Critical connection study, that you also comment with UDOT when they're talking their freeway expansions. It's the same project area, but it's also separate things. They're separate efforts. But I can say that if you have a large transit center right next to the highway, whether it's UTA's headquarters or at the Rio Grande Depot, and you have more transit service going there, you can connect people from the west side much more easily with much more frequent rapid transit, and the highway would not be a barrier there. So that's one way we can make that freeway barrier much less of a burden.
Thanks. I can actually comment on the freeway issue if you'd like. So there's actually a number of very thoroughly underutilized freeway underpasses that already exist. 9th South, 8th South, and 2nd South, and actually the entire space under Union Civic's existing triangle. So if the Rio Grande Plan were to be built, those four become a triangle. Existing freeway undercrossings now become full-fledged city streets. Like if you take 1 second to look at UTA's bus network, there's a huge east-west bus divide. We've got 4 that goes over the 4 South Bridge. We've got 9, which takes a 4-block detour down 13 South, so it's the bridge. We've got 2, which just gives up. So these city streets that we run buses on just kept going, which they would under existing freeway passes. That would heal east-west bus divides single-handedly, not to mention human connectivity in those streets.
Thank you, very important. And not just to us having to stop on the boards and technical possibility. Cool. The other piece that is that it's not possible to effectively burn reliable east-west trains now, because as was pointed out earlier, we don't remember when a freight train is stop. And so we currently don't operate across any network.
Whoa, that's important.
Last one, everybody.
Great, I'm your closer. So I'm a recovering Davis County resident. What do you mean by that? My question is short, and it's especially important tonight since it includes a lot that both of you touch on. How will Salt Lake City use zoning to support the Rio Grande proposal and encourage better apartments with more mixed-use space and less room given away for parking? Basically, if this goes through, what will Salt Lake City do to support it?
Seems like a Dan question.
Yeah, go Dan.
We just did the, affordable housing incentive, that was doing one thing. We also have reduced our minimum parking requirements so that we don't want to have big parking. We are looking at some like shared parking structures, but it's like, I didn't like that because I want more bus transportation or public transportation, more frequency. So all that will allow us to increase that thing because now we have more efficient travel.
Mixed use zoning?
And we always have mixed use zonings, yes, because our zoning requirements right now is that, and we want to make that a missing middle. So we want to increase housing on all income levels. and mix them up, and also have a community nodes, because if you have a community nodes and you have everything there, you don't need that car. You can just walk to the grocery store, you can walk to the coffee shop, you can walk to the bar, you can walk to the childcare, and you don't have a car, and then you can just get on a bus. Again, we got to grow as a city to get there, and the way to do that is to take that big swath of land in the middle there and develop it with parks. But we need green space.
Four-wheel, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, thank you very much. All modes of transportation. Yes, yeah.
Actually, I want to say something about that. So one thing that's really cool about this, so this is the RDA's current plan for the 2 blocks that they have to work with, not the 7 or 8 that they would have to work with potentially. But what's cool about Station Center or this whole depot district is that there's interest from the public market for getting a permanent public market building, which could be led by the train station. There's interest from the University of Utah for having an innovation district, which would be a lot of university functions with a connection to the university directly. There's interest from, like you said, maybe arenas, like the Jazz or whatever, NHL. Like all these uses can be concentrated to where people can get to them with transit. And part of the problem with transit is you can't get to where you want to go. But if everything is planned to be close, then that's partially solves that problem too. So fixing the land use actually helps differently abled people as well.
That was a major part of my point. Thanks.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Yep.
Again, thanks for the enthusiasm, thanks for the feedback, and thanks for the connections. And we just got to keep pressing the envelope. And it takes a lot of work now. This is grassroots. These 2 guys did it all on their own, right? No one paid them to do this. This is grassroots type of deal. So there's longevity here, but it takes effort from all of us. So thank you very much for joining us tonight.
Good. I'll get started.
We'll be hanging out here if you want to talk to us. We're also going to sort of centralize our efforts a little bit with our new organization. So we've been planning our organization to be Via Rio Grande, and we would like to just kind of get into working to evolve and maybe organizations and keep it in conversation too. So if you're interested in being part of Via Rio Grande, talk to us. Thank you very much.